All right, respiration is the topic 10 of the 5090 syllabus. And basically, it's not that long topic, but it is connected in all the physiological processes that occur. Respiration, we sometimes refer to the breathing, but actually, breathing is not respiration, right? It is the gas exchange that we do, that we take in oxygen is absorbed into our blood, and then we excrete out our carbon dioxide. But respiration is refers to the metabolic reaction that occurs in the cytoplasm of every cell in our body, and not only in human but in all the mammals, in all the animals, in all the plants, in bacteria, fungi. Respiration is said to be the symbol of being living. If something is said alive, it means that it must be having respiration occurring, right? Usually, the eukaryotic cells have a membrane bound structure called mitochondria, which is responsible for aerobic respiration. And this is what we are going to discuss, because there are two type of respiration. The respiration, or the metabolic process of producing energy. Respiration is actually, whenever you have to define respiration, it is the chemical reaction which is carried out in cell to produce energy, and now it can happen in the presence of oxygen or in the absence of oxygen, right? So the respiration that occurs in the presence of oxygen is called aerobic respiration, and the respiration that occurs in the absence of oxygen is called anaerobic respiration. But first, we have to know, we have to list down that what are the uses of the energy that is basically released during the respiration reaction. So we must know a list of the uses, because sometime it may come as a 2 to 3 mark question, or if not a 2 to 3 mark question, they may ask you indirectly, right? So you must know that what are the uses of the energy produced during respiration, right? So when we talk about human beings, the first and the foremost, when we say that respiration is the energy that is produced by respiration, is used for protein synthesis, right? For protein synthesis, like for DNA replication, for protein making, for RNA synthesis, everything, energy is needed, right? So for protein synthesis, energy is required. And now, if the energy is required, obviously the respiration will occur, right? For example, for active transport of nutrients, right? Or right, for active transports of nutrient in a small intestine, or in nephron, kidney, ठीक है? किडनी में जब सिलेक्टिव रीअब्जॉर्प्शन होता है, at that time active transport is used. Now, active transport is the movement of molecules from the low concentration to high concentration, and that requires energy, and this energy is basically produced by respiration in mitochondria. So mitochondria is the powerhouse, and beside mitochondria, another type of respiration also occurs in the cytoplasm, right? So for number one, for protein synthesis; number two, for active transport; number three, for cell division. Now, our cells need to divide for repairing or for the growth of an organism. For example, the size of organism has to be enlarged. For example, if a baby is born, then if he gets older, his size increases, and the size is increased due to the division of its cells. The cells divide, one cell divides into two, then two divides into four, right? So this somatic cell division, and even the gamete formation, this also requires uh, energy. So for cell division, energy is required. Number four, for muscles contraction. Now, our muscles, we have, our body has different type of muscles, right? We have skeletal muscles that are attached with our bones that help them to move. We have cardiac muscles, the muscles of the heart that make heart to beat, right? The and we have antagonistic muscles in various places. We have muscles in the alimentary canal as well. So all the muscles, they have the capacity to contract and to relax. Now, to in order to contract, they require energy. So the energy, so if there is no energy, there would be no muscle contraction. So wherever muscle contraction is involved, if there would be no energy, no muscle contraction. If there is no energy, there would be no cell division, right? Number fifth, for the transmittance of nerve impulse. Now, nerve impulse, the messages from different sensory organs, from different receptors to the central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord, and from brain and spinal cord to the different effectors. This is done with the help of the nerve impulse. It is actually an electrical impulse. Now, this impulse is basically transmitted by the specialized neurons, which are the nerve cells. And in order to pass this electrical impulse, right, energy is needed. So, if there is no energy, means no nerve impulse transmittance. So there would be no connection of brain with the receptors or with the effectors. Now, what are receptors and effector? This is what we are going to discuss inshallah in coordination and control, that we would be discussing inshallah the next topic after respiration. Now, the sixth, anything else which I haven't discussed? What is the next use of energy? Now, the body of the mammals, they require to maintain the temperature, right? And this is done by homeostasis, right? Temperature regulation. This is what we are going to do in coordination and control. So, for homeostasis, again, energy is needed. So, for maintaining temperature by homeostasis, energy is required, right? And what else that requires energy? So we have basically listed enlisted that where the energy in living organisms needed, that is for muscle contraction, for protein synthesis, cell division, active transport, for growth, right, the passage, and for the electrical impulse transmittance, and for the maintenance of the body temperature, so that there is a constant body temperature. There is the temperature of the body remains constant, for maintaining constant body temperature. So this is something that is there. At least we have enlisted six uses of respiration that are required, for which energy is required. There are other processes as well, right, for production of hormones and all, right, on which energy is needed. So energy is needed for everything. So, and this energy is produced by respiration. Now, we must know that what are the two types of the respiration, right? This is not seven, this is six, right? So the types of respiration. Now we have two types of respiration, right? Number one is aerobic respiration, and number two is anaerobic respiration. The simple difference, there are a few others differences as well, but we can say that respiration in presence of oxygen, respiration in presence of oxygen, and this respiration in absence of oxygen. So when there is no oxygen, or when there is a shortage of oxygen, organisms start to respire, because we have another pathway. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has basically kept an alternative pathway of producing energy, because if there is a shortage of oxygen, then the organism should not stop produce energy, because this energy is required for different functions. So in order to have at least some of the energy produced, there is an alternative pathway which is called anaerobic respiration, which means a respiration uh, in absence of oxygen. Although there are certain differences, and this is what we will be discussing when we will have discussed aerobic and anaerobic respiration in detail. Then we will discuss that, we will be figuring out that what are the differences between them. So in your syllabus we must know uh, the word and chemical equation of aerobic and respiration, right? So aerobic respiration means uh, your carbohydrate, that is your glucose, right? This is basically the word equation, right? You should remember both the word and chemical equation. The word equation says that when you glucose, the carbohydrate, which is the primary source of energy, right? So whenever your body requires energy, the first and the foremost thing that is broken down into to give energy is carbohydrates. And in carbohydrates, the simplest form of carbohydrates, it's glucose. So even if you have glycogen or if any other complex carbohydrate in your body, that has to be broken down, that has to be digested into glucose, so that the glucose may be used for respiration, right? So glucose plus oxygen, and that gives carbon dioxide, right? Carbon dioxide is basically a waste product that is not required by the body, right? Body wants to produce, body wants only energy. Now this carbon dioxide is an extra product which is not needed actually, and this has to be excreted out, this has to be removed out of your body. So carbon dioxide, water, and plus lots of energy in the form of ATP. ATP is actually adenosine triphosphate. These are the phosphorylated nucleotides, right? This is what you need to remember, that energy which is produced during respiration, it is in the form of ATP. At least at this O levels, at this level of O levels, it is, or IGCSE, it's okay to remember that ATP. That's it. We do not have to remember their full form, what are they, how they are produced. It's okay. You only have to remember that during aerobic respiration, lots of energy is produced in the form of ATP. Right now, its chemical equation. The chemical equation says C6H12O6. Now, C6H12O6 is the formula of glucose, right? Okay, subscript. Let me subscript it. Okay, C6H12O6 plus O2. Now, this O2, right? You must remember, this is what you need to remember, is that you must remember uh, the balance equation, right? This is not balance. I'm only just writing not balance, but I will be balancing it. So in fact I should write it in balance. C6H12O6 plus 6O2, after reaction it gives 6CO2, which is carbon dioxide, plus 6H2O, means 6 molecules of water are being produced, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide are produced. And if any one of you know that this is just the opposite of photosynthesis, Photosynthesis is like 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O, and after reaction it gives 6 glucose and oxygen. So respiration is actually the opposite of photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, plant uses the sunlight, solar energy, and they, by the use of carbon dioxide and water, they produce glucose and oxygen. And then this glucose is then again broken down to give the energy which actually plants want for making different things, right? So in human body we do not have photosynthesis, we only have respiration. So this is the glucose formula, this is the oxygen formula, this is carbon dioxide, water, and ATP, which is the energy, right? So you need to remember this balance equation of aerobic respiration. Okay, all right. And you must also remember the word equation. Okay, so this word equation and balance equation you should remember, because they can ask you in any way. Okay, respiration is an exothermic reaction that it releases energy. So exothermic reactions are those reactions uh, that release energy, right? So okay, now this is what aerobic respiration occurs in mitochondria. Now mitochondria is the site of aerobic respiration. This is what you need to remember, right? And all the cells have mitochondria, animal cells, plant cells, except few of the cells which are specialized and they do not have it. The prokaryotic cells, that is bacterial cells, they do not have mitochondria. Their respiration occurs in their cytoplasm. So not having mitochondria doesn't mean that bacteria are not able to do the aerobic respiration. Yes, they can do aerobic respiration, but since they do not have a membrane bound structure like mitochondria, so this respiration occurs in their cytoplasm, right? So mitochondria is the site of aerobic respiration. And for aerobic respiration, this glucose and this oxygen has to diffuse into the cell, and it has to move to the mitochondria where carbon dioxide and water are produced, and then this carbon dioxide has to remove out of the cell, and it is taken by the blood to the lungs so that this carbon dioxide is exhaled out, right? So this is for the aerobic respiration. Now the next thing that we have to do is anaerobic respiration, right? And this is what that you need to remember is aerobic respiration gives larger amount of energy as compared to anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration occurs in absence of oxygen. So once we discuss the anaerobic respiration, its word equations and its details, we can discuss that why is that so, right? Because as you can see from the equation that this actually carbon hydrogen bonds, they have the carbon hydrogen bondings in the organic compounds, they possess the energy. So when this carbon and hydrogen bond break, energy is released. So as you can see that this glucose is completely oxidized into carbon dioxide, that is this carbon is completely gets off with the hydrogen, all the covalent bonds are broken down and the water is separated and carbon dioxide it is separated. So the energy that was between carbon and hydrogen bonds, right, that is released in the form of ATP. And since the complete 100% oxidation of glucose is carried out in aerobic respiration, that's why aerobic respiration results in the release of a large amount of energy as compared to anaerobic respiration. Now what happens in anaerobic respiration? Now, in your syllabus, we also have to study anaerobic respiration in yeast as well, right? So we will be discussing the word equations for both, not the chemical equations. Your, as you can see from the syllabus, right? This is your syllabus. they are saying that only the word equations you need to remember, right? There is no need of chemical equation, but chemical equation is only needed for aerobic respiration that we have discussed, right? So I will be discussing the word equations for anaerobic respiration, but in order to make you understand that why there is less amount of energy release in anaerobic respiration, I'll be discussing uh, the chemical equation as well, right? So the word equation for anaerobic respiration in human beings, right, in human, is that this glucose without oxygen, because since anaerobic respiration occurs in the absence of oxygen, so there is no other reactant other than glucose. So this glucose is partially broken down into lactic acid plus small amount of energy. Now, this energy is quite less as compared to the energy that is released during aerobic respiration. Why is that so? Because glucose is not completely broken down into that is, let me paste it here, right? So here glucose is incompletely oxidized because there is no actually it is broken down. There is no oxygen to make it oxidize, so glucose is actually partially breaking down into lactic acid, and the formula of lactic acid is C3H6O3, right? C3H6O3 is the formula of lactic acid, right? So is in C3 C3H6O6, right? Oxygen is still here, right? And no carbon dioxide is released, right, during this breaking down. So you can see that still, right, only lactic acid is produced, no carbon dioxide, no water is released. So the glucose is converted into lactic acid, that's it, right? Means half. One glucose is broken down into two molecules. You can see that six carbons here, three carbon, there are 12 hydrogen, there are six hydrogen, oxygen is six. So actually a glucose molecule is breaking down into half. So you could say that a lactic acid has the formula that has the half of the glucose, but still there are carbon hydrogen bonds. Now, these carbon hydrogen bonds are still possessing the energy which has to be given off, right? Once these bonds will be broken, then the energy which is left in the lactic acid, it will be released. So that's why less energy is released, less ATP. Okay, so once this lactic acid is oxidized, and this lactic acid is oxidized in liver, and liver is the place where the blood takes the lactic acid from the cells, respiring cells, and the blood takes the lactic acid to the liver where it is oxidized, and it is oxidized into further carbon dioxide and all, but it does not completely oxidize in our muscles. Now this anaerobic respiration in human being only occurs in our muscles, usually in the muscles, skeletal muscles, because these skeletal muscles are connected with the bones, and whenever we are walking, running, having a physical exercise, we require extra amount of energy. Now this extra amount of energy, sometimes aerobic respiration is not enough to provide that energy which we require during our physical exercises, physical activities. So the more demand of the energy is somehow compensated by anaerobic respiration with the muscle, which is an alternative route of producing energy, in which small amount of energy is released somehow to help us uh, to to help the muscles for contraction during the exercise. But when the lactic acid is built up in the muscles, we start feeling cramps, right? So whenever we have more anaerobic respiration during running, during exercising, our muscles start to cramp. And the reason behind is that whenever lactic acid starts to build up in our muscles, we start feeling cramps, we start feeling tired. So the feeling of being tired means less energy is being produced in our body, and some of the lactic acid is being accumulated in our muscles. So this lactic acid has to be removed instantly from the muscles, and it has to be taken to the liver, so that it is where that has to be oxidized, because lactic acid is toxic. Accumulation of lactic acid is toxic, so that's why our body has a complete system of removing this lactic acid, which we will be discussing, which is also called uh, EPOC, which is the post exercise oxygen consumption, right? This is what we are going to discuss. Now this was the word equation of anaerobic respiration for human, but there is a different there is different uh, reaction in yeast, which is there in your syllabus, right? So in yeast, anaerobic respiration, where the yeast use glucose, right, in the absence of oxygen, and produce carbon dioxide plus alcohol, ethanol, you could say, not alcohol. Ethanol is also an alcohol. Now carbon dioxide is CO2 and ethanol is C2H5OH, right? So it's still less amount of energy is released. So what you need to remember is that the basic difference between anaerobic and aerobic respiration, not only the presence and absence of oxygen, this is also the amount of energy that is released, right? So aerobic respiration always provides high amount of energy, and anaerobic respiration provides less amount of energy. This is because in anaerobic respiration, glucose is not completely broken down into carbon dioxide, means there are still some carbon hydrogen bonds which are left, and these carbon hydrogen bonds are those bonds which on breaking that gives the energy. So in ethanol, whose formula is C2H5OH, right, still there are bonds, there are still two carbons which are attached with the further hydrogens and hydroxyline, and they have that energy in it, right? So in yeast, if you use yeast in baking, what happens that whenever you add the yeast in your flour, right, what happens that it uses the sugar that is present in your flour, it uses it and it produces carbon dioxide and ethanol. So that's why your dough rises, right? Whenever we bake pizza, whenever we bake breads, so they use yeast dough, and yeast basically makes your dough lighter as compared to the flatbread, the roti that we make usually regular daily. It is flatbread, it does not rises the way as the yeast dough rises, just like in bread and buns and pizza dough, that they rise because yeast, during using the glucose, it produces carbon dioxide. Now this carbon dioxide is basically lighter, so that's why try to go up, it's a gas, right? And with the carbon dioxide, you do also rises. So during baking, this carbon dioxide escapes while leaving a raised dough, and your ethanol is also evaporated, and your yeast is also died. So that's why you can have it's safe to eat bread because it does not have live yeast in it, because that yeast is died during the baking. It is killed during the baking due to the heat, right? So this is the word equation for the yeast. Now there is a syllabus learning objective, which is that you have to investigate and describe the effect of temperature on respiration in yeast. Actually, this is for your P4, in which certain times they have given the experiments in paper 4, which is your alternative to practical, that they take different cylinders and they provide yeast with glucose, and then they give some time and they see that how much the dough has been risen, right? The foam has been risen, and there you have to basically see that what is the rate of respiration at different temperatures. So what you need to remember is that yeast is a living organisms, and in all living organisms enzymes are produced, and enzyme catalyze all the metabolic reaction. And respiration is a reaction that is 100% controlled by enzyme. So if your body has enzymes, so they will be controlling the respiration, because there are many stages, there are many steps of respiration. It's not so simple that the glucose is broken down into carbon dioxide and water and giving you energy. There are many steps involved. So during every reaction is basically catalyzed with a specific enzyme, and enzymes are temperature dependent. Their optimum activity can be only obtained at a particular temperature, which is their optimum temperature at which they give the highest activity. So if we increases the temperature, the enzymes will be denatured, so we won't be having too much rise of the yeast dough, and there is a temperature. So those who bake, basically they must have an idea that whenever they have to activate the yeast, they have to warm the water or the milk, but it must be warm, it should not be hot, because if it would be warm, the yeast will grow very fast, yeast will start to ferment it very quickly, right? But when there is a very hot water or very hot milk, this will make the yeast to be killed, and you won't see any rising of the dough. So that's why it is temperature dependent, and it's quite, and why it is temperature dependent, because respiration is carried out with the help of enzymes, and enzymes are temperature dependent. Too much severe temperature or very low temperature, enzymes, they do not work optimum. At low temperatures, they are not that much active due to the less kinetic energy, and at high temperature, their active site starts to get denatured, and then they are unable to fit with their substrate. So that's why there is a declined rate or decreased rate of enzymatic reactions. So this is what you need to understand or remember for this marking point. So we have done with the description of respiration, we have done with the uses of respiration, we have also discussed this, because this is a part of the paper 4, that inshallah ta'ala, when we will be having a session of paper 4, we will be discussing different experiments in which we will discuss inshallah one of the experiment that would be covering the yeast respiration. Okay, the yeast anaerobic respiration is also called fermentation, alcohol fermentation, alcoholic fermentation, this is also known as fermentation, right? Then we have also discussed aerobic respiration, and then we have also discussed the word and balance chemical equation of aerobic respiration. Regarding the anaerobic respiration, we have discussed that what it is. It. We have also discussed the word equations, and now the two important things that are left to be discussed, because that is a very small topic, right? There is not much detail. And what is that? Why lactic acid builds up in the muscles and blood during vigorous exercise, causing excess post exercise oxygen consumption, right? Epoch. Now, what is epoch? Have you ever noticed? Now, this is something that I would really want you to think, that have you ever noticed or have you ever thought that why does it happen that whenever you are resting, you are breathing? We have discussed this in gas exchange. That's why I told you that gas exchange is related with respiration in a way that whenever you are resting or sleeping, your breathing rate is normal. You're not taking too many breaths, right? Usually it's 12 breath per minute, and even the breathing depth is not too much. Breathing depth means the amount of air that you are taking in into your lung, right? Usually half a liter we take in during resting or sleeping. But when we start to exercise, we start to breathe fast. We are taking 20, 22 breaths per minute. Why is the reason? Because in gas exchange chapter, we say that because carbon dioxide, because muscles, we are breathing high, because during respiration, because when our muscles are contracting, they require energy, and when they require energy, they more respiration will occur. When more respiration will occur, so more carbon dioxide will be produced, which may decrease the pH of the blood. If there is more carbon dioxide, the blood gets the so the brain gets the signal, and it basically send a hormone that ask the intercostal muscles and diaphragm to contract hard, so that we may start to breathe fast and may take more oxygen to do the aerobic respiration, to fulfill the need of the respiring muscles, as well as to remove the carbon dioxide which is produced during respiration. So not only the carbon dioxide has to be removed, but lactic acid, because during exercise, usually our body has a capacity of taking in of oxygen. We cannot take a particular amount of oxygen more than that, as we have discussed in the last chapter, that our lungs capacity is 5 liter, and it's 1.5 liter of air is always there, even if you breathe or not. I mean, how hard you breathe, try to breathe out, 1.5 liter is always there. So we can only take in 3.5 liter of air in us. So you can imagine this depends upon the number of the RBCs that are present in your blood. Sometime if you have low HB, hemoglobin rate is low, so you won't be absorbing much of the red oxygen. So this will limit the oxygen intake. This will also limit the oxygen intake if you have low RBCs, or if you have sickle cell anemia in which RBCs have a sickle shape. So there is a limitation of oxygen intake, right? Still, if you're a healthy person, but your lungs cannot take more than amount of oxygen that it can take, it has a limiter to that. Now you cannot fill the glass more than the top layer, right? It will, if you will be adding more water, it will be spilling out, it won't getting inside the glass. So everything has a capacity. Our lungs have a capacity to take oxygen, maximum oxygen at one time. So when this maximum capacity of oxygen reaches during exercise, our muscles require constant energy, and this constant energy requirement is fulfilled by another alternative route of producing energy, which is called anaerobic respiration, right? So we can say that exercise, right? Exercise, and your breathing rate becomes higher, right? You are taking a particular amount of oxygen into your body, right? So this breathing rate higher, causing more aerobic respiration, more aerobic respiration. But this aerobic respiration is not enough, so you require further more, because you require more energy, right? For to accommodate, to compensate the need of the energy, our body has another route which is called the anaerobic respiration, right? Which is the anaerobic respiration. And now this anaerobic respiration is basically producing, what this anaerobic respiration is producing, lactic acid. Now this lactic acid is lethal, it's fatal, because it will accumulate. First of all, it is an acid. It has a low pH. It can decrease the pH of your blood. Your blood has so many proteins in it, and those proteins will get denatured, including some hormones, including some blood proteins as well, including many things that are present in our blood. So, lactic acid accumulation is fatal. This lactic acid has to be removed. Now, this lactic acid is basically taken to liver, right, by blood. Now your blood basically collects this lactic acid from the cells which are respiring, your muscular cells which are respiring. Your blood, this lactic acid is diffused into the blood capillaries, right? And then this blood takes this lactic acid to the liver. And have you, what I started with that, have you ever observed that even after doing the exercise, you still breathe more, you're still breathing higher, your breathing rate is still higher, and slowly, gradually, then it becomes normal. But why your muscles are no more contracting anymore, just because I'm doing the exercise for 15 minutes, now I've stopped doing the exercise, but my breathing rate doesn't get normal, My heart rate doesn't get normal as soon as I stop the breathing, as soon as I stop the exercising. It gets normal after 4 to 5 minutes. Why is that so? Because at that time, we are taking extra oxygen, which is required for the oxidation of this lactic acid in the liver, right? Because the oxygen, which is already going, it is doing the aerobic respiration. The Because in the absence of oxygen, our body did anaerobic respiration, so now we have a debt, right? We have a debt of oxygen, which is called, this is the debt and this is the oxygen debt. Now oxygen debt is basically the extra amount of oxygen which is needed to oxidize this lactic acid. उर्दू में कहते हैं उधार, right? So we did this was the oxygen that was missing when we required energy, so our body carried out in anaerobic respiration. And now since anaerobic respiration happened without oxygen, so oxygen is in debt. Oxygen has to be borrowed from the atmosphere to oxidize this lactic acid in the liver. So if we want breathe more oxygen, extra oxygen, this lactic acid won't be oxidized, and this would be lethal, this would be fatal, we can die, right? So this lactic acid has to be removed with the help of the extra oxygen that we breathe after we stop exercising. So that's why our heart rate doesn't get normal as soon as we stop exercising, because heart has to pump the blood for the quick collection of the lactic acid from the muscles and bring that to the liver. And then heart is also pumping that oxygenated blood towards the liver, because liver wants oxygen now, because liver has this lactic acid which has been transported from the muscles to the liver. So this lactic acid in liver, this lactic acid has to be oxidized, right? So this lactic acid has to be oxidized in the presence of oxygen, right? And their lactic acid will be completely oxidized into carbon dioxide, so that then we will be breathing. And for this, we will be breathing more oxygen, which is called which that we called in our that we call the excessive or extra post exercise, excess post exercise consumption, or an oxygen debt, right? Oxygen debt is basically the extra oxygen that is required for removing, for oxidizing that lactic acid, right? And so this is what we have done, and that's why our heart continue to have a faster rate, so that the lactic acid is transported from the blood, from the muscles to the liver. And then we continue to take more air, more deep, our breathing rate remains deeper and more in the first 4 to 5 minutes after exercise, so that the lactic acid may completely oxidize into the liver, and we may fulfill that oxygen debt, right? So this is all for the anaerobic respiration, right? We have discussed, and this was not this was something that you need to understand, that what are the mechanism of paying the oxygen debt. Now paying the oxygen, because sometime a question that comes in paper 2 is that why the heart rate and breathing rate remains high even after the exercise, it doesn't get normal. So there you have to mention these keywords, which are the anaerobic respiration, releasing of energy without oxygen, production of lactic acid. Now this lactic acid consumption, this has to be oxidized in liver, so extra oxygen is taken in, is breathed. Our body has to breathe more oxygen in order to oxidize this lactic acid in the liver. So that's why our heart rate and our breathing rate remains higher, right? So this is all for the respiration. Inshallah ta'ala, we will be starting our new chapter, coordination and control, from the next class. Till then, take care. Okay, but we have some time as well, so we can also discuss some past paper questions, right? In spite, because we have 10 minutes more, so we can discuss some past paper question. Let me discuss them with you. And in this P1 question, we can see that there is an experiment setup. They have asked it various times that we have two test tubes containing lime water. Now, what you need to remember is that that lime water test is always there whenever we have a lime water, and if carbon dioxide is basically mixed with the lime water, it makes it turbid. It makes the white precipitates of calcium carbonate. Lime water is actually the calcium hydroxide. So whenever there is a carbon dioxide in the environment, or whenever it absorbs the carbon dioxide, it becomes turbid, it becomes cloudy, precipitates will form. So formation of the precipitate shows that there is a presence of carbon dioxide. If the precipitates are forming vigorously, it means that there is more carbon dioxide. If they are forming very slowly, it means that less concentration of carbon dioxide. So we can see that this is the test tube 1 and this is the test tube 2, and both of them have the lime water. And we can see that in this flask we have some living animals, and these living animals, basically it means that when we talk about living animal, it means that they are respiring, they are exchanging the gases, they are taking in oxygen, they are excreting or they are exhaling out carbon dioxide. So this carbon dioxide is basically moving upward, and it is going in both right side and in the left side. That it is, this carbon dioxide is basically diffusing both in test tube 2 and in test tube 1. Now, what they are saying that lime water is a clear solution that turns cloudy in the presence of carbon dioxide. Air is pumped through the apparatus. Now, a continuous air is being flowed. Now, air is a mixture of gases, and as we know that atmospheric air has very low concentration of carbon dioxide, that is just 0.04%. So, if that air is basically moved into this solution. Now there is a solution which is absorbing carbon dioxide. So whatever the carbon dioxide that is present in air, it will not be making this lime water cloudy, because all the carbon dioxide that was present in the air, it has been absorbed by this solution. Now only oxygen is being transferred to these animals, because these insects require oxygen, but we are not providing them complete oxygen. We are not providing them pure oxygen, we are providing them air which is a mixture of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So this air which is flowing into this test tube, the carbon dioxide is being absorbed, and the rest of the gases, they are diffusing into these test tube. Now some of the air is also moving here, and then these two tubes are also connecting with this tube to one, and then the air is going out from there. Now what they are saying, what is the appearance of the lime water in test tube 1 and 2 after a period of 10 minutes? What would happen after 10 minutes? These insects would be respiring out, these insects would be exhaling out carbon dioxide, which will diffuse from into this test tube 2 and in this test tube 1. So as we can see that this test tube 2, this is more, yes, this test tube, yes, B is the right answer, very good. uh, since the test tube 2 is connected with the lime water, so that's why the carbon dioxide will make it turbid. And here this test tube 1 is actually with the air, and air has very less amount of carbon dioxide, and some of the carbon dioxide is also absorbing here. So there would be very less carbon dioxide moving into the test tube 1. So the test tube 1 will remain clear, and the test tube 2 will become cloudy. So these are the type of experiment they ask you to study, and then they want you to answer them. Now, another question which I really want to be solved is, okay, now this is a question regarding athlete, right? So those athletes which have a greater rate of forming lactic acid in their body, it means that they are not fit athletes, right? In the trained athletes, those athletes who run or who have a training, they have training courses in which their body is trained so that they may have the capacity of taking in more oxygen that will help them to carry out aerobic respiration more as compared to anaerobic respiration during their exercises. So that's why in their body lactic acid is produced very less. So in this question, what they are asking is, we have to decide which athlete is fittest, and how we will be able to decide. There are the times in the minute, and then we have four athletes. Now this is the exercise time. The first 20 minutes are the exercise, and we can see the lactic acid concentration in their blood. So in the athlete 1, we can see that lactic acid concentration increases from 20 to 84, then to 95, and slowly gradually it is decreasing. It means that during exercise his body is making so much lactic acid, that is so much anaerobic respiration, so it's not that much fit. Now this, we can see athlete 2 is also making lot of lactic acid. Then athlete 3, yes, he is not making lactic acid in the first 10 minutes, because his body is doing aerobic respiration. So we can, in first 10 minutes only the athlete 3 has the least amount of lactic acid being produced. It means that he is the fittest one, right? Because his body is at least carrying out aerobic respiration a maximum till 10 minutes. But after 10 minutes, obviously his body is getting tired, his body requires more energy. So that's why anaerobic respiration would be occurring. So that's why it rate even 85, while the rest have 95, 90, and 98. So athlete 3 would be the fittest one. And then we can see that his normal lactic acid rate reaches to 20 by 80 minutes, and still we can see that these it 90 minutes, 90 minutes, and even 39 is here. So a perfect trainee or athlete must having a great rate of taking in oxygen and removing lactic acid fast. So athlete 3 would be the fittest one. Then the second one would be, whose lactic acid going down early is, I think, athlete 2, because he's producing 82, then 90, and then he is at 90 minutes his lactic acid is now constant 20 20, but 28 23. So athlete 1 would be at the third place, and athlete 4 be at the fourth place. So A would be the right answer. So this is something that if you have the knowledge, you can correlate with that, right? And now let me see if we can discuss any P2 question. Okay. There is a question, because we do not have much time. So I have just shortlisted a question to discuss. And this is, lion can only run quickly for a short time. This means they have to get close to their prey before accelerating to maximum running speed, right? They cannot run for a longer period of time. So it means that they have to close to their prey as soon as possible, because they cannot run longer, because their bodies start to do the anaerobic respiration. And if the lactic acid would produce, that would basically make his muscles cramp, so he will not be running that fast, right? Name the process used to release energy in the muscles of the forelimb when the lion starts to run after its prey. So you have to name the process which is releasing energy in its four limbs when he started to run. So obviously this is aerobic respiration. So aerobic respiration would be the right answer for the first question, right? And explain why the lion can only run at maximum speed for a short time, because after that time his body starts to produce lactic acid due to anaerobic respiration. And this respiration will make, and the accumulation of the lactic acid in his muscle will make him having muscle cramp and fatigue, and there will be an oxygen debt, and he will start to breathe higher, and that's why he will have some breathlessness. So that's why he cannot run for a longer period of time. So This is basically the answer for this question. So our time is also finished. We will be continuing it inshallah by tomorrow. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.